welcome to Pixels and Pinfalls. My name is Edward and this is the first video in a brand new series, the Versus series. Now this will span quite a lot of content across the channel and will be broken into gaming and wrestling side of things. In this particular video we're going to be looking at the gaming side, specifically an original game versus its remake. And what are those games? Well, the original is Metal Gear Solid for the PlayStation 1 and the remake is the Twin Snakes for the Gamecube. Now, I know what you're thinking, the Twin Snakes, that's sacrilege, surely. That is the worst abomination in gaming. The original is so much better, what the hell are you talking about? Well, what I'm going to be doing is looking at 5 different areas within gaming, and I'm basically going to be giving a point to one version of the game or the other version of the game, and based on that we're going to work out, sort of slightly scientifically, but obviously this is based on my opinion, which one of these games is actually better than the other one. So first off, let's look at the visuals of this game. Now very importantly, this isn't just whether the graphics are better or not, because as I'm sure you can appreciate with any remake of a game, the newer version should always have a better graphics because it is built on a more powerful system. And indeed that is the case here. Obviously the original Metal Gear Solid is very kind of pixely, it's very blocky, it's very kind of flat as well, and obviously the remake, which was released on the Gamecube, is much better. It's a next generation of console, so the character models are a lot better. You can get proper kind of facial animation in there as well. But the one thing letting the Twin Snakes down is the fact that they've kind of taken this hugely cinematic world that has been created in the first one and gone completely left field with it. Yes, they have basically used the graphical basis of the Sons of Liberty game that was released on the PlayStation 2 and the Xbox, but what they have done, especially within the cutscenes, is gone kind of very Matrixy. There's a lot of kind of slowing the camera down for some reason. Snake now is kind of this essentially Matrix type character, being able to do these ridiculous somersaults and kind of evasions of missiles and gunfire, things like that. To be honest, it kind of works for the ninja character, but he's not the main character in the game, and when you attribute these skills towards Snake, it kind of doesn't really feel like him anymore. You're playing him as normal throughout the game, but in these cutscenes it just kind of ruins what that character actually is. So in terms of the visuals, I'm actually going to give this point to the original game. It's much more atmospheric, it's much more in keeping with the feel of the game. You don't kind of lose that immersion when you go into cutscenes. The character is still kind of moving around the same, and the way it's shot is much more in keeping with the tone of the game and the characters. So there we have it, 1 point to the original game. Next up we're going to look at sound. Now again, we're using superior equipment within the Gamecube, so the sound should be better. And in fact that was the case, and the reason why they had to re-record all of the dialogue, because just taking it from the original game, it was at such a low quality that they weren't able to enhance any of it and had to basically re-record absolutely everything. And in doing this, quite notably, what they have done is changed Naomi and Mei Ling's accents. Now, a lot of people have got an issue with this. They're not really sure why these characters' accents changed and why they became a lot more American. But one thing that many people fail to realise, or at least fail to acknowledge, is the fact that these Americanized accents were actually carried forward to Metal Gear Solid 4 on the PlayStation 3, where these characters actually make their next appearance in the story. Now, Metal Gear Solid 4 on the PlayStation 3 is the only version of that game, so technically that is canon. So it's actually the original that is sort of the anomaly here. Why in that game do they have these different accents? So if you were to play the series of games through using the Twin Snakes version instead of the original version, these characters are actually a lot more consistent throughout the series. However, my main issue with the Twin Snakes from a sound perspective is more from the music. Like with the visuals, they kind of have detracted from the overall feel of the original game. They're much more in keeping with the Sons of Liberty sequel and almost sound like that's what they've tried to emulate as opposed to the original game. Now, Sons of Liberty is a much different feel of a game. You play through it as a kind of novice character as opposed to playing through a Solid Snake. It's a lot less atmospheric and the music is a lot more futuristic because of the environment that you're in and the story that is being told. So placing this into the original storyline, bearing in mind none of the story beats actually change, none of the locations change, none of the characters change, to change the sound as well as the visuals this much, again kind of takes you out of that environment and out of that moment. And the sound and the music from the original is much more in keeping with the overall tone and feel of the game. So for that reason, that is another point to the original game. Next we move on to the controls. Now the basic controls are pretty much exactly the same for both games. You still have the two inventories accessible by the shoulder buttons to give you your items and your equipment, so no going through horrible menus. You're able to control Snake with the analog stick on both versions because the PlayStation did support the analog stick and the rumble feature because of that. And the basic actions from the first game are all still prevalent in the remake. However, what the remake did introduce were the controls from, again, Sons of Liberty. That means we can shoot all of our guns in first person mode, not just the missiles and the sniper rifle. We can also go into hanging mode, which means we can traverse the areas a little quicker. It also means we can evade enemies in a different manner. And also we have the kind of dodge roll element. There are still a few traps that you can leap over once you've activated the traps with this, and also you can obviously use this in an offensive manner against enemies, much like you can do in Sons of Liberty. Now again, detractors have stated that because you can go into first person mode, this essentially breaks the game. I don't think it necessarily does. If you're playing on a hard enough difficulty, boss fights like Revolver Ocelot are still very, very difficult, even if you're using first person mode. When you get hit and you're in first person mode, the camera flies off so much, it actually takes quite a lot of time to refocus yourself, and obviously on a harder difficulty, you take a lot more damage. So I think the game has kind of balanced itself fairly well with that. And again, it's just a lot more realistic. Because you weren't able to change the camera around with the right analog stick like you are able to in the newer games in this series, you still get that kind of top-down, very zoomed-in camera angle like you do in the first game. And although you can use first-person view in the original game, you can't move around like that and you can't shoot like that. So having this extra element does actually make it better to play and makes it a lot more realistic as well. And they do try and go for realism as much as is possible. Okay, yes, the storyline is way out there with the entire series, but in terms of when you're just in there as a one-man army surrounded by enemies trying to kind of evade and fight them off, it is as realistic as it can be. and being able to shoot in first person mode definitely adds to this experience. So because there are actually more controls available, this time I am going to give the point to the twin snakes. So next we're going to look at enhancement. What exactly do I mean by that? Well, the remake, has it actually enhanced the game in any way? Or has it actually gone backwards? Have they added things unnecessarily, which meant the game has taken a massive step back? Have they removed features that were essential and again has meant that the game has taken a step back? Or have they refined on certain things? Have they added certain things or improved on certain elements that have actually meant that you get a better gaming experience? One of the main issues with the original game, and actually is a big issue with Metal Gear 1 and 2 as well on the MSX, is the fact that you have to do so much backtracking. Basically what they have done is made the world so big, but in order to get the most use out of it, you're going backwards to get certain items that you couldn't get at the time because they were behind locked doors, or because you had to have certain knowledge that you needed to be there to go and get it. Things like needing a sniper rifle in order to fight a boss. You can actually get to the door where the sniper rifle is very early on in the game, but you have to just leave it there because you can't actually get in yet until you are basically at the boss fight. So you've then got to go very far back to practically the beginning of the game just to get the sniper rifle, and then all the way back again to actually fight the boss. Again, later on, when you have to change a key card using different temperatures, you have to go back to previous areas in order to change the shape to then get back to where you were again in order to actually progress the story. Now, these aren't necessarily game breaking, they don't completely ruin the experience, but on repeat playthroughs they are a bit frustrating. You know that you could literally get that weapon now, you're gonna need it, so why can't I get it now and just have it in my inventory? Nope, you gotta wait and come back here when the game tells you you can come back here. What the Twin Snakes actually does is pretty much remove this entirely from the game. Instead of having to go all the way back to get that sniper rifle, you can do that, but there is a tranquilizer version of that just in the area before the previous boss, which, yes, I know is backtracking ever so slightly, but it literally takes about 5 minutes to get from where you are to the gun and then back to the boss fight again. Absolute maximum 5 minutes, because there's no enemies and it's just literally traversal. If you knew exactly where it was and you just made a beeline straight for it, you could probably get there and back in maybe 2 or 3 minutes. Again, with the keycard changing due to temperatures, instead of going all the way back and doing that, you can, but there is actually a way of getting to a platform that wasn't actually in the original game, and you can get to that using new mechanics, specifically the hanging mechanic, to get to 2 pipes. One that shoots out liquid nitrogen to freeze the card instead of going outside or to a cold area, and another one that shoots out steam so that you can warm the card up instead of having to go to the blast furnace. These pipes are very close to the actual computer console that you need to insert the key in. So instead of going all the way back and then having to come forward again, you can literally pop over to the pipe and then come back round and insert the card. It takes about 2 minutes each time, instead of something that could take at least 10 to 15 minutes each time to actually go to the previous areas of the game. Now that for me is a huge enhancement to the game. There's no need to keep backtracking. We know how big this map is or isn't. We don't necessarily need to go to an area that we'd gone to before just for the sake of picking up a gun, and clearly this is something that they knew was an issue. It wasn't really done so much in the newer games in the series, and the fact that they have addressed this and removed it shows that they were aware that this was an issue and wanted to fix it, essentially. Additionally, what the Twin Snakes has added in is a boss survival mode, which was again present in Sons of Liberty. I keep saying it, but it's very much using the enhancements of Sons of Liberty to feed back into the previous game. And there is also a dog tag collection system. Now, unlike in Sons of Liberty, this doesn't unlock the kind of infinite ammo and the stealth and enhance of your grip level, things like that. But it is a nice collectible thing that can enhance repeat playthroughs if you do so choose. But also, if you want to completely ignore that, then you are well within your right to do so. Also, because of the addition of the M9 tranquilizer gun and the PSG1 tranquilized version, you can finally play this game through on a no-kill run, which you could never do on the original game because you had to at least kill the bosses. This time around, however, you don't actually have to do that. So because of that, that is another point to the Twin Snakes. So going into the last element, we are 2 for 2. What is the last element? Well, it is fun. After all, it's a game, it's meant to be entertainment, it's meant to be fun. Which one, in my opinion, is more fun than the other? Now, based on what I have said, this pretty much comes down to personal preference and taste. Do you want the tone of the game to remain exactly the same? Or do you want the kind of mechanics and the way the game actually plays to be enhanced and better because it is newer? And for me personally, because I've already played through both of these games, I own both of them anyway, so I can kind of pick and choose between either one whenever I play through. I know exactly all the story beats, so I'm pretty much playing this through for the gameplay element at this point. So again, I'm going to have to give this point to the Twin Snakes. Because of those control additions and the enhancement of the less backtracking, yes, you kind of have to put up with the strange tonal shifts every now and then, but you know what you can do? You can just play through without watching the cutscenes again and again and again. I personally don't need to see those cutscenes every single time. I already pretty much know word for word exactly what they're going to say in each cutscene. And if I really want to, I can play through the original game and get those elements of it, or I can watch a kind of run through of it on YouTube. But at this stage, I'm going to be playing through this game to actually play the game. And that is why I'm giving that last point to the Twin Snakes. So there we have it. The Twin Snakes wins out 3 points to 2. I'm sure there will be plenty of you very, very upset in the comments. Please let me know. But this is not to say that the original game is bad in any way. It's still very, very good to play. And to be honest, it's a lot more accessible to people anyway. It's much easier to find. It's much cheaper to find. It's on a much more popular system, so I'm sure there are actually more copies of it made than the Twin Snakes. My version of the Twin Snakes I got second hand at a gaming fair actually cost me £50, and that was after I actually bartered them down to £50, and that is pretty much the going rate generally speaking for the game. So unless you are an avid fan of the series like I am, and you wanted to actually experience that new version, if you like, of the original game, then you can pretty much just leave it and play the original game on the PlayStation, and you still get the same sort of experience by and large. Thanks very much for watching. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, although I have a feeling there may be quite a few thumbs down for this video, and as I said, quite a few angry comments, but there you go. Join me next time on the channel for some more versus action, and obviously a lot more besides. But for now, this has been Pixels and Pinfalls. My name has been Edward, and I shall see you very soon. Goodbye. Thanks very much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. To keep up to speed with everything we're doing, you can find us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. If you wish to support us financially, you can do so over on Patreon for as little as $1 per month. Finally, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and ring the bell icon so that you don't miss out on any future videos. Till next time, we'll see you very soon. Goodbye.